Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jala Vallabha Giridhari Gopi Jala Vallabha Giridhari Yasodhanandana Rajana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Rajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Yasodhanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Om Vishnupada Purnamisa Sarvajakacharya Sutara Sata Shri Srimad Hey Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki
How can I help?
Ananta Vaishnav Vrindi Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Srimad Bhagavatam Gantaraj Ki Go Premanand Hari Bol Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya So we are studying Canto 3, Chapter 24, text number 27, the renunciation of Kadama Muni. Aho papaccha mananam nirayesva Nirayeshvara Mangale Kalina Bhuyasanuna Prasidanti Hadevata Aho Papatya Mananam Nirayeshvara Mangale Kalena Bhuyasya Nuna Prasidanti Hadevata Aho Papatya Mananam Nirayeshvara Mangale Kalena Bhuyasanuna Rasidanti Hadevata Devata. Aho. Oh. Papacyamananam. With those being much afflicted. Niraye. In the hellish material entanglement. Iha, in this world, Devata, the demigods. Translation, Kadama Muni said, "Oh, after a long time, the demigods of this universe have become pleased with the suffering souls who are in the material entanglement because of their own misdeeds." Purport, this material world is a place for suffering, which is due to the misdeeds of the inhabitants, the conditioned souls themselves. The sufferings are not extraneously imposed upon them, rather the conditioned souls create their own sufferings by their own acts. In the forest, fire takes place automatically. It is not that someone has to go there and set a fire. Because of friction among various trees, fire occurs automatically. When there is too much heat from the forest fire of this material world, the demigods, including Brahma himself, being harassed, approached the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and appealed to him to alleviate the condition. Then the Supreme Personality of Godhead descends. In other words, when the demigods become distressed by the sufferings of the conditioned souls, they approach the Lord to remedy the suffering, and the Personality of Godhead descends. When the Lord descends, all the demigods become enlivened. Therefore, Kadamba Muni said, after many, many years of human suffering, all the demigods are now satisfied because Kapila Dev, the incarnation of Godhead, has appeared. Om Gyana Timarandasya Jananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasme Shri Gurve Namaha Durgame Parimendasya Skalepati Gati Mahu Swakripa Yustu Dhanana Shanta Shanta Valambanam. So we're in this chapter where we're discussing Kapila, the incarnations that we've been talking about that for a while. So today is a very auspicious day because it is the disappearance day of two great personalities, devotees of Lord Chaitanya, Rupa Goswami and the mental block here, second, and Gauridasa Pandit. Thank you very much. Hopefully I got all the blockages out of the way. So, of course, there's Paritra Naya Sadnam in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna explains Vinasyasa Duskritam Dharma Samstapanataye Sambhavani Yuge Yuge. So this is just a direct explanation of that the Lord descends in different circumstances, one to give pleasure to the devotees and to annihilate the miscreants. And if there are miscreants on this planet, within this universe, then obviously they cause so much suffering. As if the suffering is not going on already, we are suffering birth and death. And then, of course, other living entities come along under the influence of the mode of ignorance with that enjoying propensity and make people suffer even more. So this is a setup for Lord Kapila Dev to come, but it's also an excellent setup for Lord Chaitanya to appear. So I'll just start with the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. So we'll just switch Leelas, fast forward it a few millenniums, and we'll go to the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. So same thing again, that the devotees were being harassed so much, so they were crying out for the Supreme Personality of Godhead to come. So Dvaita Acharya, as we know, he was offering Tulsi, he was loudly calling upon the name of Hari, please come, please descend upon this universe. So he was waiting for the Lord to come, and also there was Haridas Thakur. So these were the principal. So he was Advaita Acharya was Sadashiva. Haridas Thakur was an incarnation of Lord Brahma, and he's the Namacharya. He just continuously chanted the names of Hari, 196 rounds daily, 300,000 names of Lord Hari. So they were setting up the scene for Lord Chaitanya to come, and Madhavendra Puri was there. He was an extra special devotee of Krishna, and he was the spiritual master of Advaita Acharyas, the spiritual master of also Ishvara Puri, who initiated Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So they were there waiting for Sri Chaitanya to come. So the scene was set. So when Lord Chaitanya came, he brought his entourage with him. So when Krishna came, he brought everybody from the spiritual world with him. So similarly did Lord Chaitanya. So Lord Chaitanya, he also brought the gopis and the cowherd boys and his parents and everybody else, they all come from Vrindavan Lila. They appeared in Navadvip. So the gopis came, so Lord Chaitanya, he was, actually when he came, he was Radha and Krishna combined, so Radharani. So he had the golden form of Radharani. So this was very special because not only did he want to taste the glory of Radha's love for Krishna, but he also wanted to reveal Radha to to everybody in the all the souls in the world, because previous to that, Radharani's glories, they weren't really, they weren't revealed so much in the Shastras and to everybody. They were hidden from everybody's view in a sense, because the Vedas, they used to talk about the combination Sita Ram and Lakshmi Narayan and Lord Shiva and Parvati as perfect couples, but there was little mention of Radha in the Vedas. So actually when Vyasadeva, he compiled the Vedas 5,000 years ago because he knew that Kali Yuga was coming and everybody's memory were going to be diminished, so he got all the Vedas, all of them, Rig, Sama, Yajur, Atharva Veda, the Upanishads, the Puranas, the Hastas, the Puranas, and many more, all the different Vedas. He put them together, and it was a voluminous work, so when someone does such a great work, there should be some sort of satisfaction there that they've achieved the goal. But he was sitting there and he wasn't happy. They said he was despondent, that was the word. And he didn't understand why. Until Narad Muni come along, he said, you're feeling a little bit despondent, are you? Is it because you haven't talked about Krishna? And he realized that. So then he wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam. So there, within the Srimad Bhagavatam, within the 10th canto, there's the essence of the deep love of the gopis. And he wrote about that from the conversation of Sukadeva Goswami. And as we know, Sukadeva Goswami was very careful about mentioning Lord Radha's name, about Srimati Radharani's name, and he only mentioned it very discreetly. So Lord Chaitanya, when he came, of course he was Radha and Krishna, and he wanted to taste the love of Radharani for Krishna, so he started to speak about it. So he introduced it in the first conversation after he took sannyas with Ramananda Roy. And Ramananda Roy, he asked him, what's the goal of life? So of course he got Ramananda Roy to go through all the different sort of goals, like Varna Ashram, and then service in the mood of servitude, in the mood of friendship, in the mood of a parent, and then conjugal. And Lord Chaitanya kept saying, go higher, until he spoke about the love for Radha, for Krishna, as being beyond everything else, being the highest, and such great intensity that it completely bound Radha to Krishna like no other entity in the spiritual world, like Vaikuntha or anywhere else, way beyond that of Sita Ram, Lakshmi Narayan, way beyond all that, and what to speak of any association of loving relationships in the material world. So in the Antya-lila, so when Krishnadas Kaviraj described Lord Chaitanya's end pastimes, Lord Chaitanya was completely focused on Radha's love for Krishna, and he exhibited so many divine symptoms of ecstasy that it's not possible for human beings to emulate or even understand. So all this was witnessed by two great devotees, Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar, and they were, not only were they his confidential associates, but they were also gopis in the last life, so they were intimate gopis. They were Lalita and Vishaka, who confidentially advised Radharani about her pastimes, how to go about her pastimes with Krishna. So there we have the gopis. So the gopis came to associate, and then just below the gopis, or behind following in the gopis' footsteps, we have the manjaris. So in the spiritual world, we have the gopis, and said that the gopis are all around same age as Radharani, which is about, from what I understand, about 15 years and 6 months. So that's the appearance of, that's Radharani's, how she appears in that age spiritually. And then all the other gopis are around the same age. So except for Lalita and Vishaka, who are a little bit older. So they're talking about 26 days. I think Vishaka's the same age as Radharani. And then all the other gopis, the principal gopis, a little bit younger. So they're all in that category. They're all friends. They were born, when they came to Vrindavan, they were all born around where Radharani was born. And then they all associate, they grew up together. So behind that, just a little bit behind that, we have the manjaris. So the manjaris are yet to attain maturity. So they're around 11, 12, maybe 13 years old, and their business is to serve the gopis in their service to Krishna. So they're like the assistants. So these manjaris also appeared and said that actually the 6 Goswamis, so they were the assistants to the gopis, and the 6 Goswamis came as the manjaris. So it's a very, very liberated, exalted position. So we're talking about Rupa Goswami today because it's his disappearance day. So he came, and in his previous life he was a Rupa Manjari, very, very intimate servant of Lord Krishna. And he had a special mission in this, special mission for Lord Chaitanya to broadcast the glories of Lord Chaitanya. So a lot of times when we talk about Rupa Goswami, we talk about the early days. I would like to discuss them, but we also got the exotic pastimes of Gauridasa Pandit, which not many of us know about, and I want to get to that. So I'll just mention Rupa more briefly than I would like to. But Rupa Goswami, he was, well, when he was born, he was very, very intelligent, him and his brother, and they, being intelligent, they were noticed by the ruler of the kingdom, the Nawab, Hussein Shah, who adopted them as his ministers, and Rupa became his financier, his treasurer. And the kingdom thrived so much that Rupa got a spin-off. He wasn't Rupa Goswami then, he had some other name. I forget what the name was. W-Cast, right? So when he was engaged in that service, he was also a Vaishnava in heart. It's not that he had his whole heart set upon it, but then when he heard about Lord Chaitanya, how he'd come to this material world, and he understood that his Leela, his rasa was with Lord Chaitanya, he lost his taste completely, even though, as I said, he had fabulous wealth, he had everything he wanted, but his heart began... Is that me or... What am I doing? His heart began to burn for Lord Chaitanya, for service to Lord Chaitanya. So eventually he was able to break away from the clutches of the Nawab, and he found Lord Chaitanya. So then Lord Chaitanya he instructed him personally for 10 days. I think it was in Varanasi that he found Lord Chaitanya in Varanasi and staying Prayag, staying at Tapana Mishra's house. Was that right? No, that was in Varanasi, somewhere else. Chandrasekhar's house. So he was there, and Lord Chaitanya instructed him for 10 days, and he gave him 4 instructions. He entrusted him, said, go to Vrindavan, excavate the lost sites, install deities there, write books and teach about devotional life. So spread the Yuga Dharma for this age. So that was entrusted to Rupa. And of course, Sanatan and then the other 4 Goswamis came along. So when Rupa managed to extricate himself from the Nawab, he gave his money away, but he kept some. He had fabulous wealth, so he took some to Vrindavan. And what he did with that, he bought some land, and he bought a lot of cows, and he got a lot of farmers, and he trusted the farmers, the cowherd men, to provide milk for all the sadhus in Vrindavan. So everybody was all the sadhus were getting milk in Vrindavan. So he had enough money to keep that going. And then one time, at the same time, he was going on with his mission, so he's looking for the Radha Govinda deities. He knew that, he's looking for Govinda deity. So he knew that the Govinda deity was somewhere. There were 3 principal deities that had disappeared. These deities were carved right at the end of Dwapara Yuga, or beginning of Kali Yuga, by Lord Krishna's grandson, with the great-grandson, Nabi, Rajanaba, right there. So Rajanaba carved these 3 deities in the likeness of Krishna, and that was under the advice of Uttara, who remembered Krishna really, really well, and she was one of the few people that was still alive that saw Krishna. It was about 50 years after Krishna had disappeared. And he knew there was somewhere, but he couldn't find where. And then one day, a farmer came to him and said, there's this cow that acts really, really strangely. It drops all this milk down this hole up this hill here. Every day it just moves, and then it gives all its milk and it goes down this hole. And Rupa could understand just the place. I haven't got the details, there's too many details, but the name of the hill, and that was sort of synonymous with Govinda. So then he said, aha, Govinda must be down that little hole there. So he got a lot of the villagers, and then they began to excavate that hill, and they dug deeper and deeper. Of course, because the cow had been dropping so much milk there over the period of months or years, the ground was very soft, and they kept going deeper and deeper. They went down 50 feet, and finally there was a Govinda deity. So he found his Ista deity, his worshipful deity, Govinda. So, and then he started to worship Govinda there, and once in that same area, the Nawab, who was the Akbar, right? So Akbar Khan was the ruling Mohammedan leader, and he was very munificent. He was very open-minded. He absorbed all the different philosophies, and he liked to hear philosophies. And he'd heard of Rupa Goswami. Actually, he was living in Agra, and he had his chief general. His name was Raj Singh, and he was a big Kshatriya, called Sikh, big Kshatriya, and he'd won all these battles. Every time he fought a battle, he always won. So he's very popular with the Shah, and he, before battle, he would pay his obeisances to the deities. He was a great Vaishnav. So one time he went to Vrindavan, and he met Rupa Goswami, and strangely enough, so many years had gone past, but he remembered Rupa when he was in the court of the other Shah there. So he knew that Rupa was a very auspicious person and he was a sadhu, and he wanted to build him a big temple for Govinda. He said, when I fight my next battle, I'm going to come back and I'm going to build this huge temple for the Govinda deities, Radha Govinda. So Rupa Goswami was a bit hesitant. He said, well, you know, really these are sort of, these are just forest deities. They like engaging in forest pastimes. I don't know about a big temple. But eventually he succumbed, and when the general won his next battle, he had so much Lakshmi, and then the ruler, Akbar Khan gave him like 1 week's worth of treasury or whatever, gave this huge sum to build this beautiful Govinda temple, Radha Govinda temple, and it was like 7 stories high, and it said that it was like designed by Vishwakarma himself. It's just magnificent. This is 500 years ago in Vrindavan. And of course, later on, the great-grandson of, he destroyed that temple. What's his name? Aurangzeb. Indradumna Maharaj says, I don't like to even mention his name. He was such a wicked person. So Rupa Goswami, while he was there, he was excavating the temples, and he wrote so many wonderful books. And just like Lord Chaitanya said, he gave us all these beautiful works that we base our devotion upon. We have the Nectar of Devotion, the Nectar of Instruction, there's the Laghu Bhagavatamrita, and there's so many other books. I can mention them all to you, but it won't make any difference to anybody, because they all sort of run into one sort of thing. But I just must mention here that Bhanu Maharaj, who comes here quite often, he's a very lovable sannyasi. He has been translating these books. The books of the Goswamis, he's translated about 130 books, and a lot of them are books by Rupa Goswami. So there's a very, very, very beautiful tribute to the Goswamis, the Bhajan Krishna Kirtana. I think we've all heard that. Krishna Kirtana Ganana Paraparo. We had the time, I would love to sing it, but I would just like to briefly just summarize it, that the 6 Goswamis, namely Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and Jiva Goswami, they're all dancing in ecstasy, conducting kirtan, and they kicked off all association of aristocracy as insignificant, and they all become mendicants wearing loincloths. They were friendly to all the gentle and all the ruffians, always engaged in chanting, popular with everyone, and they engaged in missionary activities meant to deliver the world. So dancing in ecstasy, studying the Shastras, bowing down in schedule measurement. So I kept saying that bowing down in schedule measurement, that sort of sounds, that sounds like, what is that? Actually, what it meant was that they were doing dandavats around Govardhana Hill. So Rupa Goswami would do dandavats nearly every day. They would circumambulate Govardhana Hill in that manner. Was it Rupa or Sanatan? Anyway, Rupa, so we'll say Rupa, he was starting to get older and he was struggling with it. And then Krishna appeared to him and he said, you're too old to do this. You don't have to do this. And then he put an imprint on a rock and his footprint was there, and he said, all you have to do is circumambulate this rock and that will be fine. So anyway, he got Krishna's mercy. So we are following in the footsteps. So everything that we're doing is really because of the, like the good work of the Goswamis and the sacrifices that they performed, and Srila Prabhupada has given us these works of the Goswamis in so many different ways, and we're called the Rupanugas. So we're following in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami. We're Rupanugas. What is our hotra? The Rupanugas. We're Brahma Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya. As I said, in India sometimes they come and they say, what is your hotra? Right? So what do we say? Achyuta Gotra. What does that mean? Wow, okay. Oh, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya. Okay. So, Rupanugas. So, this is the Goswamis. So, the Goswamis, they were Manjaris. So, where do we go here? So, Rupa Goswami. So, someone said to me yesterday, why do we honour the appearance? Because I said, tomorrow's the disappearance. So, do you have an appearance and disappearance? Why do you do that? We have so many saints and sages. Well, why do we do that? Because actually they've blazed the trail for us to go back to Godhead. They lit up the path, so to speak. So even hearing about their achievement purifies the heart from all different material contaminations, just to simply understand the glory of these people. And of course, to follow in the footsteps is another wonderful thing. So today we are also honouring the disappearance of Gauridasa Pandit. So for many years I hadn't been paying attention to this great personality, but somehow or other it just opened up to me in the last couple of weeks. I've heard a few stories, but I'll try to summarise the life of this great soul. So previously we were talking about the Manjaris. Who are the Manjaris? The gopis. Yeah, they're sort of gopis, but there were 6 Goswamis in Chaitanya Leela. So when Lord Chaitanya came, he had the demigods, he had the gopis, he had the Manjaris, and he also had the cowherd boys, right? So there was 12 principal cowherd boys that they're mentioned in Guru Ganesh Dipika. One of them, of course, was Abhiram, who got left behind 5,000 years ago. When Krishna left, he sort of playing hide and seek, and then he fell asleep in the cave, and when he came out, they were all gone. So then Lord Nityananda went and got him 5,000 years later and brought him back. Brought him back in the same body. He said, I don't want to take birth in another womb again. I said, okay, we'll shrink you and we'll make you, like all the other devotees in Kali Yuga, Abhiram. So, and then Gauridasa, he was also a cowherd boy. So he was Subal. So he was born a little bit before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this place called Ambika Kalna. If you go to Mayapur, usually you go the straight way along the highway and you go through Krishnagara, but there's another way that you can go a roundabout way sometimes when that road used to flood, which it does, it's a highway now. You go through Jalna and Ambika Kalna. So Gauridas, he, being Subal, he worshipped Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda as the lords of his life, and actually all his life he had been sacrificed everything for Lord Nityananda. He worshipped Lord Nityananda. In fact, his older brother had 2 daughters, Janavi and Vasudepriya, and Lord Nityananda married those ladies. So in fact, that Gauridas was related to, he was like his uncle. So he gave everything in his service to Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya. So when Lord Chaitanya, as Nimai Pandit, he was staying in Navadvip and he decided to take sannyas. He crossed the Ganges, and before he went to Katwa to take sannyas. He stopped at Ambika, which is apparently on the way or very close by. When he crossed the Ganges, he brought the oar of the boat that he crossed the Ganges with, and he gave it to Gauridasa Pandit, and he said to him, he said, with this oar, I want you to take all the other living entities in the world over the ocean of material nescience. You can help the fallen souls cross over the ocean of material existence. Very auspicious, and that oar is still there, apparently. And it's also said that there is a Bhagavad Gita there in that temple that was written by Lord Chaitanya's hand. Some people dispute that, but nevertheless, that's what's said. So they wanted to say goodbye to Gauridas before Lord Chaitanya took sannyas. So Gauridas, he was distraught. He was crying, weeping. He said, you can't do this. You can't leave my house. I will die in separation, surely. And he was begging at the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya, don't leave, or Nimai Pandit, don't leave. Lord Nimai said, okay, what we'll do is we'll construct a pair of deities which is exactly like Lord Nityananda, myself, and you can worship them. And immediately there was 4 entities. There was 2 deities, and there was Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, and they all looked so similar. So Gauridas was very, very happy about this, so he cooked a big feast for them, and he fed them, and after he fed them, he actually rubbed their foreheads with sandalwood paste, gave them new cloth, and he gave them some tambulam. Does anybody know what tambulam is? I've just read that. Anyway, it was very auspicious. I thought it'd be something to do with betel nuts, yes. So he was very absorbed in them, and then they said, right, okay, we'll leave the deities here and we'll move along. And he said, oh, but you've promised that you'll stay, that you're in my heart, I can't bear your separation. And if your philosophy, like you say, the deities are exactly the same as you, just send the deities. You stay and just send the deities. You go off, they can go off. And he was so insistent that Lord Chaitanya said, oh, all right then. And then the deities that he had on the altar, then they started to go out the door, right? And he goes, wait a minute, you're playing a trick on me. Actually, these are the deities and you're the real one. So he stopped the deities from going out. And then Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda went on the altar. And then he looked behind and said, but you're Lord Chaitanya, you're Lord Nityananda, you stay. And then the other deities started to walk out. He said, wait a minute. And he got completely confused. He didn't understand. He didn't know who was the real deities and who was the real person, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, who was the deities. So he said, all right, okay, I understand. So he was very, very happy to have his deities because he understood that the deity is non-different from the personality himself. That was the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And he was very, very intently worshipping these deities. And one day he saw that, Lord Chaitanya was simple worship, but he thought, oh, how nice it would be if they had all these ornaments and beautiful jewels and everything like that. They were decked out in their, like they are like the supreme lordships. So then he went out, and Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda got off the altar. They went and got these bangles, and they come back on the altar. And when Gauridas come back, he saw that all decked out in these beautiful bangles. So they had a relationship with him, and he was so happy. So then time went on. He was getting he was going older, but he wasn't conscious of the time factor. He had this one very pure disciple whose name was Hridaya Chaitanya. So Hridaya Chaitanya used to serve Gauridas, and he served the deities. So at one point, it was coming close to Gauridasa, about 3 or 4 days away, and Gauridasa said, "Oh, I would love to have a festival for the Lords," and then he went away. And that's the only instruction he left for Srila Chaitanya, who wanted to please his spiritual master so badly. So then he wrote a lot of invitations to all the different Vaishnavas in the area, and they got the invitation, and of course Gaur Nitai were famous there in Ambika Kalna, so everybody started to prepare to come, and then Gauridas come back, and Srila Chaitanya said, Prabhu, you weren't here, but I sent out all these invitations for Gaurapanim. And Srila Chaitanya secretly was very happy that it was going to be a festival on, but then outwardly, this is sort of like a pastime that they have between spiritual master and disciple. We see it quite a bit in Chaitanya Leela. He said, "You did things without my instruction. You're so insubordinate. I can't have you here. You have to leave," like that. So Srila Chaitanya was actually dumbfounded. What have I done? So then he went to the bank of the Ganges close by, and he was under a tree there, meditating on the Lord within his heart, meditating on his guru. And this rich merchant just happened to come past in a boat, and he saw Srila Chaitanya, he saw the purity, or he knew of Srila Chaitanya, and he said, I want to give you this wealth. That's a thing that happens in India. The sadhus, you unload a lot of wealth onto a sadhu, you get a lot of punya, right? So he wanted the punya. So he gave him all this wealth. And Srila Chaitanya said, I can't accept it. He said, give it to your spiritual master. So then he went and gave Gauridas all this fabulous wealth. And Gauridas says, very nice, have a festival, have a really, go and have a great Gaurapanim, organise everything. So everybody heard about that. And there was thousands and thousands of people there for Gaurapanim, and they were all chanting the holy name so loudly that Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda on the altar in the temple, they heard that, so they wanted to go along. So they hopped off the altar, and they were dancing in ecstasy with all the crowd. They were in the middle, and everybody saw, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda here. And they formed a circle around them, and they were all dancing. It was an ecstatic festival. But then the Pujari, whose name was Greater Ganga, I keep thinking of Ganga in Mayapur. What's this Ganga? What? The deities aren't here. What's happened? So then he thought, well, I have to go and tell Gauridas this straight away. Your deities have gone. So he mentioned that to Gauridas, and then Gauridas knew exactly what was going on. So he got this big stick, right? Oh, I can't let them get away. They have to go back. They're not going to escape from me. So he goes to where the festival is, and there's a whole group of devotees there. Heaps and heaps of devotees surrounding Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. And he's trying to make his way through, but he couldn't get through. But then Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, they spotted him with the big stick, and they become really, really afraid and what to do. So they jumped into the heart of Srila Chaitanya. They went into his heart, merged into his heart, and from his heart they went back onto the altar in the temple. So Gauridas witnessed this actually, and so when he got to Srila Chaitanya, he embraced him, and he just shed tears of ecstasy, saying he was so fortunate, and that's how he got that name, Srila Chaitanya, right? One Lord Chaitanya, one who Lord Chaitanya is in his heart. So, Srila Chaitanya and Gauridas, well, Srila Chaitanya, of course, later on, he became the spiritual master of Shyamananda, and that's another beautiful story. So he's a very, very auspicious devotee in the Leela of in our Sampradaya. And so as Gauridas started to, he wasn't aware of his age, and he very enthusiastically enthusiastically used to cook for the lordships, and they used to eat the prasadam, but one day they wouldn't eat their prasadam. He cooked 12 nice preparations, and they said there was an angry mood there, and they didn't eat their prasadam all day. And he's asking, what have I done wrong? What have I cooked? I'll cook anything you like. What would you like me to do? And he said, we'd like you to stop cooking. You're getting too old. You know, we see you struggling so hard trying to cook these 12 preparations. Just cook us some shark and we'll be happy with that. Right? So he said, okay, I'll do that, but you eat first. So they happily ate the prasadam. And then after they just cooked the shark, and then later on he passed away in his service to Gauridasa. So it's a beautiful story of seva to the deities, how one reciprocates with the deity, so you don't think that the deity isn't Krishna on the altar there. So it's an inspiration to all the devotees and all the pujaris. So all glories to Gauridasa Pandit. Good. Thank you very much. Any comments, corrections, critiques? Yes.
Thanks so much, Vasu. It was really nice hearing all these pastimes you were telling us. I had a question about Rupa Goswami. You was saying, you know, how he's Manjari in the in Vrindavan Leela.
Krishna Leela, yeah.
Yeah, is there any correlation between his service? What was his service there, and what's the relation to his service here? Do they correlate?
Not really, because the Manjaris, it's pastimes. You know, their pastime is just to serve Krishna. So when they came, Lord Chaitanya had a dual mission that he had. First of all, that in the beginning he introduced the chanting of the Maha Mantra as the way forward, as the process of yajna for this age. And so all the devotees that came helped him in this mission, basically. So this is how everybody engaged, and this is their ecstasy, that by engaging in the process of chanting, then they actually saw Krishna and his different pastimes. Even Lord Chaitanya wanted to describe that Lord Chaitanya in the Yanchi Leela once got woken up by the devotees because he was in a trance, and the devotees all chanting because he's been in trance for so long, and he was just saying that actually, you know, I was just behind a tree, I was watching Lord Krishna and Radharani going to a cave, and then Gopi came up to me and asked me to pick some flowers for him, you know, so, and then you woke me up, you know, so that's the sort of Leela like that, you know.
I was just thinking, because Sukadev Goswami, you know, he is the parrot in Krishna's Leela, and it kind of makes sense that he's then reciting the Bhagavatam. So I didn't know whether that was the same with every personality, it would relate to their service like that.
Oh, well, yeah, it's a sort of, I don't know, I can't sort of, yeah, they're both different sort of Leelas. Yeah, you've got something here.
This is always a nice verse to chant on this day, and it sort of partly addresses this is the position of Srila Rupa Goswami. This is the first verse of the 19th chapter, Madhya Leela. And I'll just read the translation. Before the creation of this cosmic manifestation, the Lord enlightened the heart of Lord Brahma with the details of the creation and manifested the Vedic knowledge. In exactly the same way, the Lord, being anxious to revive the Vrindavan pastimes of Lord Krishna, impregnated the heart of Rupa Goswami with spiritual potency. By this potency, Srila Rupa Goswami could revive the activities of Krishna in Vrindavan, activities almost lost to memory. In this way, he spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world. So that's the...
Thank you very much. I think on that note, we'll say 30, say all glories to the Lordship, Shri Radha Govardhana, all glories to the 6 Goswamis on the altar, all glories to Gauridasa, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Here.